I keep thinking about this story my mom tells me about when I was 5 or 6 years old. And we were going and selling chocolates. The schools give you like that box of chocolates, the world finest chocolate, to raise money for the school. And we're going around in the neighborhood knocking on each door to sell this chocolate. And she said that we knocked on this door, and right when they opened it, I opened the box of chocolate and just was like, "What do you want?" And my mom said she felt so embarrassed, but it just, I don't know why I keep thinking about it. It keeps making me laugh. I kept thinking about it the last few days, and I'm reading this passage in the Course in Miracles that I'm about to share with you about what do you want. We got all these chocolates in this box. What do you want? With like, it made me think of biochemistry. You wake up every day, and what kind of hormone profile do you want? What kind of magic do you want? You want these chocolate covered almonds, you want some caramel almonds, do you want to be in your cortisol, or do you want to be in your testosterone? You want to be building progesterone for your cycle. Like, what do you want? That's what I'm thinking about. And so like, I'm going to share this really relevant passage that I read this morning in Course in Miracles that actually made me think of the chocolate situation, chocolates. And it is still up to you to choose to join with truth or with illusion. But remember that to choose one is to let the other go. Which one you choose will endow with beauty and reality, because the choice depends on which you value more. The spark of beauty or the veil of ugliness, the real world or the world of guilt and fear, truth or illusion, freedom or slavery. It is all the same. For you can never choose except between the all and the ego. Thought systems are but true or false, and all their attributes simply come from what they are. Only the thoughts of the one are true, and all that follows from them comes from what they are, and it is as true as the holy source from which they came. And it just reminded me, what do you want? Madam, I do not have time to waste. What kind of chocolate do you want? It just makes me laugh because I could just picture my younger self just being so direct, so to the point. And I love how children are very honest, They always give you that pure honesty. It's like, why would you want anything but honesty? And I remember someone recently, it was like 1 week after the other, I just remember I was in conversation with people, and both of these people, like, I asked them a question, and they both said, do you want the truth? Like, do I want you to lie to me? No, not really. I mean, you can. I told them, I said, you can. I will know that you're lying. Or you could just tell the truth, because who doesn't like the truth? Don't you want to be open and honest with me? Because I have no intention, with you other than to be open and honest with you, Like, what are we here for? We're not here to be honest. Like, I don't want to be here with you if that's the case. But anyway, which one will you choose to endow with beauty and reality? Truth or illusion? Freedom or slavery? And it's like, when we're in the lens of like the cortisol, we're just seeing through a lens of negativity and through limitation and stress. And what do you want to choose? I mean, the basic foundation of getting out of the stress response is to hydrate the body. I can't change my biochemistry if my body is all dehydrated. And like, again, just the simplicity of the rubber band explains hydration. When we're hydrated, we're not in this fluid and flexible state, right? When we're dehydrated, we have the biochemistry of an elderly person. As we grow older, we dehydrate, right? We become stiff and rigid. We lose our balance. Our memory goes down. Our smell, sight, all of our senses go down. Why? Because this is the functioning and the capacity of the brain. And we don't have enough minerals in the environment. So we want to stay flexible. We become rigid, and we can find our way back to this flexibility because the body is always healing. And, for instance, the cell, if we want to find our place back to fluidity and flexibility, we got to think about, how do I engage with my mitochondria? Because it's essentially mitochondria versus you, You don't have the functioning of the mitochondria. The cell is producing a majority of the energy from the mitochondria. So if we're not feeding them, our best friends, then we're relying on our nuclear DNA. This is the DNA of our ancestors, right? If I'm predisposed to heart disease, well, then I'm going to rely on my nuclear genes that is more likely to express these genes that have been passed down from generations in the family, right? But you can choose to embody the reflection of your environment. So when I say that, it's, do I want to live a dehydrated life, or do I want to live an abundant life, abundance of amino and fatty acids and sunlight, engagement with my mitochondria? I'm doing a meditation, I'm believing in my body, I'm believing in my ability to heal, and my immune system needs energy. My immune system, if we're going to heal the body, we need to feed the immune system. And the immune system is like, it's like an employee working time and a half. I always talk about this. An employee is working time and a half. This is the immune system. They are hard workers. They work around the clock, 24/7, all the time, deflecting viruses, tumor cells, all types of parasites, whatever. All the time, there's this little tiny war going on at the cellular level that we're not even aware of. And the immune system is constantly working. And, sometimes they get tired. We go through stressful events in life. With the rubber band, we become a little bit, I don't even know where to put it. The rubber band, we become a little bit stretched thin, we become a little bit rigid. And sometimes we need more minerals, right? We need magnesium is like, they say, over 500 reactions within the cell. Selenium, right? Precursor to glutathione, right? We need carnitine, second step of electron transport chain in the mitochondria. Where is it coming from? Amino and fatty acids, So we got to pay the employees when they're working overtime. You give them a bonus. You practice this generosity within the body, within your cells. These are your babies, trillions of babies. And the most spectacular thing about mitochondria is that you can actually make more of them in the cell. Isn't that so crazy? Especially, it reminds me, it's so crazy when you think of the brain. Like, we have certain areas of the brain. I think of the memory center. A lot of people are like, I have a bad memory. My memory is not good. Why is it that everyone who gets old suffers with memory loss? Because it's a part of the stress response. When we are stressed for a long period of time, fight or flight of the nervous system, we don't have the largest capacity to memorize things, right? Because our focus is on survival. And when we become more relaxed, when we become more on the parasympathetic side, the more relaxed and balanced side of the nervous system, we grow in our memory. Our memory helps keep us safe, right? It is like in charge of emotional recognition, facial recognition, all types of good things come from having a well-working memory, right? Being able to feed yourself, being able to work out, like, it's just a function of life. And it's so beautiful. Like, okay, so when we're experiencing memory problems, I've spoken to a lot of people in the last year who have had memory issues. I try to explain and teach about this, but like, we can build neurons in the brain. The hippocampal neurogenesis. The hippocampus is the place where our memory lives and resides, and that has really tight correlations to the cerebellum. The cerebellum, Bella. In Latin, they call her little brain. And like, she's such a small percentage of the entire brain, but she has so many motor neurons. They say the cerebellum is made up of gray matter, motor neurons, and it connects with the memory centers. It connects with the frontal cortex, this place where we can be calm and think. So like, you can build as many, neurons as you want. And that's why they say, exercise as we age, even when we're younger, exercise enhances our memory. It enhances our state of well-being. It creates flexibility within the body, and just everything works a little bit more smoothly. So I just think it's so beautiful. And going back to that same question, what do you want? What do you want? And I was talking to somebody the other day at work. She was about to go through this juice cleanse, right? And I was like, oh, that's cool, Like, I love when people are doing anything towards their health. And she's like, well, I am concerned because I don't have any willpower. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm probably going to get hangry. I was like, you want to know a secret? I was like, y'all think I have so much willpower? I don't have any willpower. All I have is habits. That's all I have. And so I was talking to her as she was starting her juice cleanse. She was like, I was like, how is it going? She was like, Rachel, I didn't make it. She's like, I gave in super quick. And I was like, well, like you can also try doing a protein, like a high protein. Instead of a juice cleanse, you could do high protein. You could be satiated in your body. You're not worried about being hangry when you're doing the high protein. Why? Because the protein is just full profile of the amino and fatty acids. It's like you're giving your body an abundance of what it needs. And you don't have to worry about being hangry, because you're full, you're satiated. And, it's not about willpower, it's about habits, and it's about knowledge, and then it's about embodying that knowledge. So when I wake up in the morning, my first meal is a full profile of amino and fatty acids, because I know that this keeps me satiated. I know that it helps balance out my nervous system, my hormones, right? When we become cortisol dominant, right, we need more minerals. Because when we're in that fight or flight, we're depleting minerals at a faster rate. So I want to bring it back down. Cortisol also works yin and yang with testosterone, even for women, right? It's so important that we're in balance. Women, 40% more likely to have autoimmune diseases. This is controlled by cortisol, inflammation, right? So we'll bring it back in balance. We could say maybe women need to focus more on this high profile of proteins and whatnot, right, for our hormone balance. And it's all to be taken within the context of your monthly cycle. So there's so many beautiful things to be thinking about. There's so many moving pieces. The puzzle is always moving. Just when you think you got things set and things are all good and ready, boom, another shift, right? So that fluidity and that flexibility is so important, and it's important to zoom out and to see the whole picture. And I just think it's so beautiful. For some reason, I just popped in my mind just to, again, talk about the stress response. I remember a client of mine told me when I was working with her, this was one of the craziest things that we ever went over, and that is 1 night short of sleep gives you pre-diabetic blood levels the following day. So what that looks like is we are more insulin resistant. But just because we have 1 short night of sleep, it doesn't have to ruin our next day, right? And then when you're insulin resistant too, when you have those pre-diabetic levels, our ghrelin, our hunger hormone is elevated. So when we have that 1 night short of sleep, we are actually craving high caloric foods. We are craving minerals. And, just knowing that our bodies does this empowers you to make a better decision about that. So when I have that one short night of sleep, the other night I went so crazy, y'all. I stayed up till 2 a.m. I never do that, okay? But I said, okay, well, I'm gonna be a little bit more fatigued this next day. What do? I'm gonna have a full profile of amino and fatty acids, because it actually satiates my body, and I'm not looking for that outward craving, right? I'm just giving my body plenty of what it needs. And even if I have a short night of sleep, it's like I'm giving my body what it needs, and I'm changing my biochemistry, right? I don't have to go through that insulin resistance. I'm going towards sensitivity no matter what, So it was just a thought, and then she, just knowing that, like, okay, maybe I do want to go out with my friends. I want to have some drinks. The next day, I know what my biochemistry is going to be like. So it doesn't have to set me back several steps back, right? Like I can keep moving forward and, have a nice, easy way that I'm maintaining my hormones and my biochemistry, right? Because the more you learn, the more you learn about what you're doing, the less confused, the less fearful you are in all these actions, So I just, I'm just happy to be here. If you're watching this video, thank you for hanging out with me. I do hope that these videos that I post are helpful to you in some way. And if you think that someone these could be helpful for as well, please share it with them. These have just been so fun for me because, in my normal life, like, I'm just always thinking about the science and the cell and the biology, and this is a way for me to express like the nerdiest parts of myself, and so I'm just thankful to practice putting myself out there. And if you're watching these and they're helpful, that's my intention, is that they're helpful and inspiring to you in some way. So, keep learning, keep growing. You can like, share, and subscribe, of course, too, if you want to support the channel. But as always, I wish you the best of luck.